Thank you so much.
Here we go.
Jason.
Thank you.
Excited to hear what you.
Where should I go? Should I be here?
Yeah, sure. I mean, usually wherever you want to go.
All right, I'm gonna be. All right, we're really excited to bring everybody up. Hey,
Give them a nice final round of applause for our last panel, closing out the day.
We are closing out the day, and what a really fantastic way to do so. Hey, everybody. Hey, wonderful panel. It is great to be here with you. I will say once again, my name is Jason Pfeiffer. I'm the editor-in-chief of Entrepreneur Magazine, and I'm really excited to have this conversation. Here is what you have on stage, what you see on stage are, whether it will be 5 founders. I don't know, somebody got lost backstage, but eventually there will be 5. And these are 5 founders of incredible brands, great success. Everybody knows that. But here's what you don't see on the stage. What you don't see is the invisible mountain of challenges and hard-won lessons and struggles and pounding your head against the wall. And that is what we want to make a little more visible. Say, oh, here's our 5th one, just strolling in. Don't worry, Ben's here. He got a cup of whatever it was that he needed, and now we're good. So we are here to make that visible, to have a conversation at the end of the day about the challenges of being a founder in this space and what it really means to find your way to success. Here's what I'm going to ask you all to do. We can just start down the line. We'll start with you, Lauren, and then move down. I'd love to just spend a moment introducing yourself, a little bit about your journey and your brand, just a minute or two, and then throw in at the end what you think the greatest misconception is of building a brand. What is the thing that surprised you the most? What is the thing that along the journey you said, I didn't know it was going to be like that? What is the thing that when a founder comes up to you and asks for advice, you say, stop, don't do that? What is that? I'll start with you.
Like, how much time do we have? My name is Lauren Bush Lauren. I'm the founder of Feed. Feed is a social business I started 17 years ago with a mission to create good products that help feed the world. So for every product we make and sell, mainly bags, reusable bags, we're able to give a donation to our giving partners on the ground that are feeding kids around the globe as well as in the US in schools. So that's our why. To your question, you know, I started this right out of college, so I had the benefit of not knowing, much at the time, and just having, all the passion, all the time in the world, and wanting to do something. I guess one of the early, very vital lessons I've learned along the way is sort of finding that community, finding your tribe of like fellow entrepreneurs and founders, but also your team and like complementary skills and just how important just people are. Every business, no matter what you're doing, it's about people. So figuring out your sort of founder tribe, but also figuring out, the amazing teammates you can have. My COO, for example, I've worked with her almost 15 years. So she's my work wife, and it's amazing. So finding those amazing people who are on that journey with you and have that complementary perspective and skill set and talent is just everything.
Something you just said there, which just reminded me, there is beauty, I hear this from so many founders, there is beauty in ignorance at the beginning of the journey. People keep saying, if I knew how hard it was going to be at the start, I would not have done this. But it was because I didn't know that I was able to keep going. I see nods on the panel, so I hear truth. Chaz, why don't you pick it up? Tell us a little bit about yourself and the greatest misconception of being a founder.
Hi, I'm Chaz Dean, the creator of Wen Hair and Body Care, and I gave up lather May 1st, 1993. It took me 5 years to create my first ever cleansing conditioner, and I went to market in November of 2000. It took me my first 5 years to realize that I changed the way people thought about cleansing their hair, and every bottle that moved had to be explained. So I'm like, how can I explain without being there physically? And this is honest. I've had clients that would tell me, you need to go to QVC, you need to be on QVC. Our mom used to watch QVC, and I used to think that was silly, to be honest with you. I used to tease our mom, like, you're supposed to go to the mall to buy clothes, you don't shop from TV. She passed away 23 years ago. She's the one that I believe brought me to QVC. I've been there going on 20 years now, and it was a platform to me to be able to explain why no lather, why no shampoo, why no harsh chemicals. I launched my brand 24 years ago, vegan and cruelty-free. It's a buzzword now. I launched my brand that way, And I now have been vegan for almost 5 years, and before that was pescatarian for 5 years. So my lifestyle, all of it lives in harmony with that. As far as finding your tribe and your team, yes, it's like, if I knew what I know now, would I ever do it again? We probably would say probably not, unless you knew everything you knew. But what keeps me going is my passion and my drive. And I know if I ever lose that, I know it's over, because I'm afraid this is real, I'm afraid to go on vacation and take vacation because I'm afraid I might enjoy it and not want to pick this up again. And that's real when I say that, it's true. I don't take vacations because I'm afraid, oh my God, I kind of love that. Do I really want to start that car again? So that's kind of my part.
I'm Julie Rice. I am the founder of SoulCycle. Also, I have a new company. I am a second-time founder. I have a startup called Peoplehood, where we're teaching people how to be in relationships better. I started SoulCycle about almost 19 years ago. At the time in New York City, there was no Lululemon, there were no juice places, there was no boutique fitness. I would say that the one thing that nobody told me was that category creation was going to actually be harder than creating a good product. When we started SoulCycle, people wouldn't call me and say, why should I come to SoulCycle? What's better about your spin class than somebody else's? What they would say is, that's included in my gym membership. Why would I pay for that? And so we really launched the entire boutique fitness category. Our thesis was always about finding joy through movement. I'm not an athlete. I've never taught any sort of a fitness class. I would never put myself up in front of a room. But I'm a community builder, and the truth is, I'm somebody that really likes to do things only when I have to meet other people and I know they're gonna do them with me. And so my business partner and I really started SoulCycle so that we would have a place to go ourselves. The one thing that I think that nobody told me when I started a business was how much you needed to invest in people, both your customers and your employees. I remember the day that I went from being an entrepreneur to having to spend most of my time focusing on being a leader, something I certainly didn't know how to do and wasn't prepared to do. But I would say that people require a lot of care and a lot of time and a lot of training. I always think about something that Simon Sinek said, which is, your happiest customer is only as happy as your happiest employee. And I really do think making sure that we take the time to focus not only on the products that we're giving the world, but to focus on our own internal cultures is something that somebody never really told me. Oh, well, mics today. What a luxury.
Bonjour, everyone. My name is Eve Carmon-Perouse. Feel free to call me Evie, and I am the CEO and co-founder of Creole Essence. Creole Essence makes organic and natural beauty products, scalp care and skin care, specifically with ingredients from Haiti. And I started the company after having a hair catastrophe while looking for a husband. I went to my hairdresser. You weren't here, Chaz, okay? Straightened my hair and it all fell out. And when looking for a solution, I called my mom and I said, what's that oil you used when I was growing up that solved all of our problems? And she said, L'huile Masquiti, which is known as Haitian castor oil. Well, I didn't know that I was going to be a category leader as well, because I thought for sure I could go into a CVS or go into a store and find the castor oil. But everything on shelves had hexane, bleach, and other additives, and it was refined. My mom sent me some in a rum bottle from Haiti with tape all over it, and I said, oh, I should start a business out of it because it's been in our family, in our culture for centuries. And that is what started Creole Essence. Fast forward, what really made sure that I went forward with the business is looking at job creation. You talked about being a social business. When I started Creole Essence, I was at the Cornell Business Incubator. No one knew what a social business was. They asked me, well, are you a nonprofit or are you a business? And so some of the things no one told me is that when you're doing something new, people are often very confused, and trying to get support can be extremely challenging. So experts would say, oh, don't do that. Don't tell people that your company is from Haiti. Tell them it's from France. Parle français, that's sexier. Whereas when we look at 10 years later and the fact that we've been profitable and bootstrapped since, it's because people felt the authenticity of the product, and it was also a product that they couldn't find anywhere, and it's something that helped with promoting their hair growth and helping with eczema and dermatitis and very serious issues. People said, don't talk about your social impact. Don't tell people that you're creating a job. They're going to think you're a nonprofit. Well, the number one reason why people talk about the company besides the product working is the fact that they want to be job creators for a country that is really struggling and usually known as the poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. And this idea that our customers could be job creators in addition to taking care of themselves is what appealed to them. And I would say lastly, I didn't know that I was going to be vertically integrated, meaning that not only do we help manufacture the product in Haiti, but we also are the ones who export it. So I didn't know that I was going to be into export-import. I didn't know that I was going to run not one but two facilities, one in Haiti and one in the US. I didn't know that I was going to have to do the selling, be on QVC, getting on digital, and I didn't know I was going to have to learn e-commerce, and I didn't know I was going to have to negotiate for everything that we wanted, not just for myself, but for the folks who we are employing. And I think those are some of the things that entrepreneurs don't get told. It looks very sexy on social media. You're speaking on a panel, you're getting your makeup done, you're on TV. I didn't know after being on Shark Tank that one of the biggest stressors we were going to have is how do you get inventory to people in the middle of a pandemic? And that's what made us open up our warehouse. So all these things that look super glamorous, it is I think a gift, but also it comes with a lot of hard work. And I remember coming to Founders Made 10 years ago, and we were actually thinking about closing down the business, and an entrepreneur said, oh, it takes 10 years to be an overnight success. And that has stuck with me today, and I think it's just interesting to be here 10 years later and to be standing here or to be sitting here to let you know that it's all right if it's not happening as quickly as you thought it would. It's not supposed to happen quickly, and it doesn't happen quickly for most businesses.
Hey everyone. So I started selling ice cream when I was 18 years old. I grew up in Greenwich, Connecticut, and I needed a summer job because I needed to earn money because I had no money. And I did that driving a Good Humor ice cream truck for 3 summers. During that time I went to college. I finished college with no internships under my belt, and I think I exaggerate, so I've been saying 2.9 GPA. I think it was a 2.7 GPA. I promptly called my sister who had worked at Goldman Sachs and started her own firm and said, Jenny, I'm done with college. I'd like a very fancy, high-paying job like you. And she said, sorry, tough luck. But one day when I was going to meet her, I saw Mr. Softy Truck, and my co-founder, Laura O'Neill, is sitting in the front row with the sky blue shirt. And I thought to myself when I saw that truck, and the only way I knew how to make a decent living was selling ice cream off of a truck. I was a 22-year-old, kind of insecure kid. I wanted to make my way in the world. And I thought, why don't we do really good ice cream, but put it on a truck, which I hadn't seen before. And I called Laura, who was at the time my girlfriend, living in Australia, planning to move to New York. I called my brother Peter and I said, do you guys want to start an ice cream truck in New York? And they both said yes. And I think that was like April, May of 2007. We sort of hit the ground running. I'm a sort of like OCD perfectionist. I know you're not supposed to use that term if you don't really have it. But I just wasn't starting the business plan. And Laura said, you gotta write the business plan. I wrote the business plan with the help of my sister, and we wanted to raise $250,000. I have no idea why that number was the number. Nobody would invest. Not a single, wealthy family friend in Greenwich, Connecticut, where I grew up, nobody would invest, but we never gave up. And in the end, 15 friends, family members, former college professors, all put in between $2,500 and $5,000, and we raised $60,000. With that money, we bought a used 1988 Chevy post office truck on eBay. We found a guy with an illegal workshop under the Queensboro Bridge to retrofit it into an ice cream shop. We bought a vending permit on the black market in New York, and we found a co-packer 6.5 hours northwest of New York City, and a dilapidated but still running freezer in the Bronx that agreed to store our product. So we ran off the fumes of that $60,000 to start Van Leeuwen Ice Cream, which is the company that I'm the co-founder and CEO of today, for 10 years. And today we sell ice cream in grocery stores all over the country, some other countries too, and we have our own corporate scoop shops in, I'm exaggerating, Laura, I'm saying 14 states by the end of the year. It's close, I think, but all over the country, so we love the business. And I think the biggest challenge, I want to make this like a non-positive, like PR spun one, so I'm going to get a little negative here. I would say things that nobody told me too. One is, outside of sciences, right? I'm not in the business of science. We sell ice cream. It's entrepreneurship. It's art. There's no experts. There's no experts. And I think a few of you said that. But when we were younger, when I was even more insecure than I am now, I would be like, oh, that guy said this or that lady said this. We absolutely can't do that. And I think as we learn more, you go with your gut. The other controversial thing I'll say is, we have had a number of investors over the year, good relationships with all of them. So this isn't to say anything bad about anyone, but whenever I meet an investor, the good ones, you say, holy cow, they are going to change the trajectory of my business. They are going to bring so much to the table. By the way, did you see their board of advisors? That guy works there and he's number 2 to that guy, holy cow. And now I think they all want to do that. But what we've learned is the people who make the difference in your business are the people who are operating the business every single day. And that goes back to what you guys said about like building a great team. And it's so important. But I think the investor thing's important because for those of you who are entrepreneurs out there and raising money, go with the best deal, and all that matters is the operating agreement. You shouldn't expect anybody to do anything that isn't in that operating agreement and to exercise every right they have in it. No matter how good a relationship you have with them or how nice they are. So I'll end it on that wonderfully negative note. Thank you for listening.
Fantastic answers all. I think what it really shows is, to your point about how nobody has all the answers. There is no one right answer for everybody, but there is a lot of shared experiences. So much nodding here and in the audience as well, but oh yes, we went through that as well. That is exactly right. That I think is really what entrepreneurship is this shared crazy experience, which is the reason to have valuable conversations. There are a million directions that we could take this conversation. What I'm going to throw out a subject here, and I'm not going to do, I don't think we do like going down the line, everyone answer everything, but let's have a conversation that evolves. I'm going to throw out one subject to start, building off of what Evie had said about how people have told you, don't say it's from Haiti, don't talk about your mission. What that made me think of when I heard that was how everybody in this panel told a personal story, and your company came out of some personal experience, some personal mission, and oftentimes you and your story is so important to consumers to understand what you have to offer and to appreciate the value and the uniqueness of it. And I'd love to hear how you all, or at least some of you, just jump in, have found the right way to use your story or your mission in sharing about your brand. How do you weave that in? How do you turn you and your experience into an asset?
Thanks a lot. Okay, mine was, because this is 24 years ago, I used to help out on Extra, and behind the scenes, the producer knew that I was going to launch this brand called When, and he was Reggie, a big black guy with dreadlocks, and he told me, you're going to have to do a specific brand for the black community, because your product will not work in the black community. And I said, no. I tested my products on everyone to make sure it was universal across the board. And it's like, if I listened to his words on that, and he said, because they're used to shopping on aisle 5, or you're looking for your product in there. I said, that's not who and what I am. I've tested this for over 5 years on every hair type, every hair texture. I know what I have, and just because, and this is across my board completely, just because no one's done it before doesn't mean it can't be done. That's my history for the last 24 years. Everything I do, I break that boundary of, if you have an idea about something, just because it hasn't been done is because that idea is unique to you. So having said that, I'm now where at least 33% of our customer base is, as you know, is of the Black community. And I didn't listen to that. I knew that I was reaching beyond that, but it was also giving up the lather. I was up against the wall. When I gave it up in 1993, people thought I was insane. They wanted to put me in a straitjacket. What do you mean I'm never gonna use lather again? And my question was, why do you use shampoo? And everyone's answer was always the same, to clean my hair. I'm like, exactly. So if you could clean your hair, but not strip your hair, not break down your hair, not have your color go down the drain, not having your hair get finer, thinner, and weaker, why would you not do that? So I'm the guy who, I run into no's every day. I turn that no into yes, and it doesn't mean it's an overnight one. I just keep opening up doors to find that yes, and all it means is that no one's ever done that before, and you've got to find your yes. And I'm working on that now. I did a brush dryer styling tool, and I hit no's. I'm like, I finally got a new rep that I'm like, okay, she is listening to me, and we're figuring out how to make it work. So you guys will hit no's every single day. You have to have that tenacity to know, don't give up. You have to keep on digging and digging and digging until you get to where your vision is, your dream, your passion, because it'll happen every day. It happens every day with me.
Although, and Evie, I want to hear what you have to say next, I know you're going to jump in, but I just want to double click on something that you said in the story there, but I think we should re-emphasize, which is it's not just about, and correct me if I'm wrong here, but it's not just about staying to your vision. And if people say you know, then you can, it's about data. You had data. You did years of research, so you knew. It's not just about, right? It's not just about knowing in your heart. It's about knowing in your research that you're right, and then being able to carry that forward. Is that right? Because that's an important distinction that I think people miss.
Yeah, and I think there's many ways to get data. I think often, especially when you're starting, you may not have that Excel spreadsheet or that fancy software that's going to tell you 30% of your customers want this, 20% want that, but if you are actively engaged with your customers. So for us at Crayola Essence, we were a digitally first company. So I spent a lot of time on social media. I'm looking at what's happening in stories, what the comment section, that's gold. I never understand when people don't look at it. That's how I'm interacting with the customers to know, oh, the next product launch needs to be a serum. She's ready for, her co-wash or her conditioner. She's ready for particular styling. Her husband and the kids are all using the product, so that means we need something for them. It's really coming from the customers. I would say to your question about what it means when you are at the forefront of your brand is that it's a double-edged sword, right? Jazz was just saying he's done 20 years of QVC. I did 2.5, and I was just like, oh dear God, I need a break. I can't get up at midnight, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m. Oh wait, new show. Okay, wait a minute, I still have this spreadsheet to look at. I need to hire someone. We all talked about a team. All that is extremely challenging, and I said, I want to try something new. I would like my co-founder to go on. I want my team to go on because I think my team, they're beautiful. They have their own story with the product, and QVC was like, no, you need to go on. You're the founder. So that's the challenge, and it's a gift and a curse in that you have a personal story that you get to share with folks, but then you have to figure out, when you're looking to scale and expand, how do others become storytellers of the product, especially if you're thinking about an exit. Because if you're looking for investors for an exit, they're going to get concerned, well, this is all about you now. So now how do they preserve you? And you need to be a specific way. So I think it's a balancing act. It's one that I'm consistently trying to figure out. My team, they're always like, all right, ma'am, it's time for you to get back in front of that camera. It's time for you to also tell your story. But I love doing it in unison with others so that I can do what I'm also uniquely, I think, gifted to do, which is to also advocate for the brand, which is to advocate behind the scenes. Where that's not always in front of the camera. So it's a balance, and it's about knowing what phase your business is in to know where you need to be, especially as you are hiring and getting capable people to take on different roles.
I'll just add something because I love that about the phases. I do think it's crazy that founders now, with the age of social media we live in, have to be their own little influencers, promoters, and run the team, and make the product, and do it all. And that's why we all are crazy and sign up for this journey, I guess. And I do think it's so personal. It's personal to every person. Like, some people live their lives on social media, and their children and their families, and it's like all an open book, and others don't feel so comfortable doing so. But there's obviously a value of having a human story and a human connection behind a brand and behind a product or behind services. And founders are uniquely positioned to like be that human. But I love what you said about, knowing that what phase I think you personally are in, but also that your company is in, and how do you step in for your company, but also show up for yourself and your family and like your own, state of mind and presence. So that's not an answer, but I think it's a struggle for founders with social media, because really, like, likes or followers, that's a currency. And you go into a meet with an investor, they want to know your social media stats. Like, that's real. So to pretend that's not real is silly, but also you can't live your life that way if that's not something you thrive on and makes you happy. I love peoplehood sort of like approach to in-person. Talk more about peoplehood.
I can definitely talk more about peoplehood. But the one thing I will say about sort of brand building and what a founder's own DNA looks like in a brand, I do think that all brands are a reflection of the DNA of their founders. That's just what it is. I mean, you really can't separate your own DNA. I like to create brands that have my DNA but are not about me. Because I think, to your point, when you think about scaling, especially because I create human experience, and one thing when you are thinking about an exit that has always been a challenge from anybody, be it a strategic or an investor that was looking at my business, was that's great while you're touching it. But what's going to happen if you can't touch it? How do you scale that? And so I always thought about SoulCycle, and I think about peoplehood in the same way. I always want the brand to be bigger than me. I always want to infuse my ethos, my decision making. When we created SoulCycle, Elizabeth and I always said, when we were training the front desk, when we were training instructors, when we were treating customers, we would say, always we're making decisions that we would make for our daughters. We have 4 daughters between us, and when we would make a decision, whether it was which healthcare we were going to give employees or whether we were going to credit a customer a class back at the front desk, is this a decision I would want somebody to make for my daughter? If my daughter worked here, what healthcare would I want her to have? If my daughter was a customer here, and that ethos, that sort of generosity, community building, I think that DNA made its way into those cultures. On the flip side, I would always say that I always wanted like the headlines, the marquees of all the things that I build to be something that is bigger than me. SoulCycle, peoplehood, all of those things become people that I create in my mind. SoulCycle, I mean, when I created her, I remember writing the copy and thinking she's a spiritual Carrie Bradshaw. That's who she is. And I think the same thing about peoplehood. I think she's somebody that believes in spirituality, but also is really skeptical about it. But I always think about brands as characters, and I infuse my own DNA as much as I can, because you really can't separate what you are. They're always reflections of me. But, as you scale and separate yourself, especially if you are thinking about, locations, other people running them, other people getting in front of cameras. For me, the typical gym model before I created SoulCycle was one diva taught the popular class. If she couldn't get up there and teach it 1,000,000 times a day, nobody came. And so I wanted to sort of create a brand that anyone could step into and people would be drawn to attend. And so I think it's a balancing act between being the persona or just infusing your own DNA.
Something else that came up very consistently in the early stories that you all told was the importance of the people that you work with, and the importance of creating a culture that is focused, that is supportive, that drives towards success. I'd love to hear some advice from you all on the most important things that you did to create that culture. I'm throwing it open. So whoever wants to jump in there, Ben?
To create the people culture. So for the first 10 years of Van Leeuwen, my other co-founder is my brother, Peter Van Leeuwen, and along with Laura, we ran the business. And I think at that point, 10 years in, we were at like maybe 300 or 400 employees. So maybe even less, maybe 250. And there was no corporate team. So it was the three of us. And our strategy for creating good culture was being nice. And I'm stealing this from the founder of Kind Bar, but he talks about nice versus kind. And nice is kind of BS, right? Being nice is like when someone totally screws up and does something that costs the business a lot of money, like not saying, hey, this is serious, you're wrong. That's not actually nice, because you're not going to help them grow. And our first major hire after we did our Series A was Corey Siegel, which was about 6 years ago, and she's our COO and president today. But she is a genuinely good person, a kind person, which is always our first bar that you need to hit to be hired at Van Leeuwen. You need to be kind. But she brought a toughness, and I would call it a kindness, that we did not have. And that I still have a lot of trouble with that. I need to be in the perfect headspace to give, candid feedback. And she can just do it at any moment, on demand. So that has actually helped us. I guess I'll close this story out with, we were in a place where our store operations, and I think at that point we had like 10 or 15 scoop shops, our store operations were such that the success of a store in terms of both revenue and the culture and the vibe of the store, how does it feel when you go in, how friendly are the team members, was completely determined by the manager of that store. So it's just sort of hit or miss. You get a good manager. Now, what you were talking about with sort of building that culture at SoulCycle, something that's much bigger than any one person. We wanted everyone to be kind and be happy at work, but it was finding people who could A, hire well, and B, give the feedback necessary for people to develop and grow. And as I'm outlining this strategy, it's a practice. It's a constant practice. We're way ahead of where we were 5 years ago, and I think and hope that in 5 years from now, we're all going to look back and say, oh my gosh, I can't believe we did things that way then. We're so much better at building culture and creating a great environment for people to be happy. Because somebody said the line, my happiest...
It's Simon Sinek. It wasn't me. I was just quoting, but it's your happiest customer is only as happy as your happiest employee.
Yeah, amazing.
Right, and those hard conversations, to your point, are the most generous ones, because you can be nice to people all day, but niceness doesn't drive them to improve, and it doesn't help them understand where objectives are and where advancement is. I'm curious, anybody else, about things that you've learned about building that culture internally that maybe took a while to learn, as Ben was saying, but have become so critical to the development of your company?
The one thing I would say is that employees really want to be heard. And over the years, and to the point of what we do at Peoplehood, is we really just teach people to listen. And it sounds really simple, but it's actually something that I worked with a coach on as I was learning to become a leader for years. I still work with the same coach, and I have found over the years, to the point of being tough or not being tough, people don't always need a raise or a promotion, but they do need to feel like what they are saying matters, and taking the time to meet with employees to make sure that people know that you see them, that you recognize it when they're doing good work, that you give them the feedback they need when they need to grow. I think that's the number one thing. People want to matter, and they can only matter if you give them time and they feel like you see and hear them.
And I think you said something that's important. I remember reading a book that talked about coaching, and this was more so about the tech space. And I thought, wait a minute, leaders and people get coaching? I'm like, no one's talked about that. So one of the things I did, I started getting coaching, and I enjoyed it so much, I wanted my team to get coaching. And for a company that is as small as us, that's not usually the thing you would invest in because there's a million of other things that you want to spend on. But I think this idea that if something works for you as a leader, being able to impart it onto your team goes further than just giving a raise, but it shows I want to invest in you and I want to see you grow. So I think getting a coach is important, whether it's a mindset coach, whether it's a life coach, not just necessarily a skill set HR coach. I think that allows for the team to grow. I think the other thing that I was watching Super Soul Sunday, Oprah, got enough Nama-O, and she was interviewing the CEO of Starbucks, the founder of Starbucks, and he talked about the compassionate thing to do. The true compassionate thing to do is to fire people. Because if someone does not fit within your organization, if they are not a culture fit, and you're not a culture fit for them, you're both actually hurting. You're not allowing that person to go on to their next best self or the next best stage. So it doesn't have to be done in an ugly or, I think, contentious way. But I think as leaders, it's also a responsibility to understand when things don't fit. It's hard. It's not a fun conversation. But that's something that leaders, you have to practice it. Or you have to work with HR to understand, all right, how are we going to have this conversation to allow that person to be their best selves somewhere else if you are not able or if you are not part of that culture where they can grow. And it's a hard, sucky part, but it is truly the compassionate thing to do.
Just one more anecdote on like the importance of hiring and something you said about the importance of listening to people. I heard once you learn with your ears, not your mouth. And I love that one, but it's much easier said than done. I think like listening is a practice. But early on in our COO and president, Corey's tenure at Van Leeuwen, her and I were interviewing someone, I think for a director or VP role. And the interview ended, I said, oh my God, Corey. I don't remember if it was a man or a woman or why. I said, that person was amazing. And Corey goes, Ben, you sat there for 45 minutes telling them the story of Van Leeuwen and how awesome all of our ingredients were. And I was like, oh, right. They seemed amazing because I felt so good for the entire meeting because I was like excited to be talking about the brand. But I think the listening thing also that's important in interviews, but also when you're selling products to buyers in the CPG channel or wholesale market, if you don't call it CPG, we've learned that like saying less and listening is so good because people feel great when they talk. Right now, this feels really good. I'm talking, you guys are listening to me.
We have 3 minutes left. There was simply no way to have enough time with all of you. But here's what I'd love to do in our remaining 3 minutes is I'm going to ask each of you to just offer one quick piece of advice to younger founders. And I'll give you a scenario, but you're willing, but you're happy to, or you're free to leave it. And the scenario is this. Someone comes up to you at FounderMade right now and they say, you have built such an incredible brand. I am at a much earlier stage. I feel stuck. I feel like I can't get past this ceiling and I'm not sure where to look. Go back in time, think about yourself when you were at that moment. What is just a question to ask? What is just a place to look? There's no one easy answer to this, but I'm going to make you all say something on stage anyway. Who's feeling bold enough to start, Lauren? Because you're near me? Because Chaz gestured towards you?
Like a resource you want.
A resource, a question, a thing to look at, a thing to say, oh, I felt the same and then I rethought this.
Yeah. I mean, I think so much of being a founder is sort of staying true to your vision, your why, but also being very flexible and like constantly reading the tea leaves of what is happening in culture. I mean, retail has changed dramatically in the last 5 years, 10 years. Like in order to stay around and relevant, like change is necessary, period. So it's not getting too stuck in sort of what you know. I think is just a massive part of being human, but definitely of being a founder. In terms of where to look, I mean, I think we all have those people in our lives, whether it's family, whether it's friends, who just, you feel like they're going to be straight with you, they're going to be kind, but like honest, and to just be open to that direct feedback. Like, don't bury your head in the sand, but choose those people carefully. Don't throw out too wide your questions or problems, because it'll come back to you and be extra confusing. But pick those sort of 5 people that can be that sounding board.
Look for the people who are kind. Jazz, what do you think?
Mine is staying connected with our customer. Again, being live on social media, which I am every day, and it's because I learn from them. They tell me what they're looking for, what they want. I get feedback. I get live feedback from that. And the other part is finding the whole within, whether it's through our customer or mine. We just had an article written that 15 years ago I developed skin cancer. I got skin cancer. Stopped going to tanning beds because for me, I believe that's probably for me where it happened. I never did a tanning bed again. Started using self-tanners. I always was orangey or streaky. I always smelled like self-tanner. Till one day I woke up and I'm like, wait, why am I settling? And I was settling for using this brand, and I won't say what it was, but I was using that brand. Why am I not creating my own? And I did. And so ours is incredible. It doesn't smell like self-tanner. It's not orangey. It's not streaky.
It smells
but
really
my
good.
point is I create them either for my customers or where I find a hole that, why am I settling for this? Why not create this? So that's what's huge with me. But staying connected with your customer, I wouldn't be here if I didn't. You must.
Why am I settling for this? Why not create this? Great question. Julie.
Something that you said really stuck with me, and I think it's so true. Especially as female entrepreneurs, I do think that we always think that there's an expert out there or there's somebody that knows how to really do it, and we're often not trusting our own gut. And so, yes, do the research. Yes, ask people who you think know things, but at the end of the day, I would say trust your gut, and that would be my best advice.
Thank you. Evie.
First, I would ask the founder, when's the last time they laughed or danced? Because often we get so deep into the weeds and into things, we're stressed, and it's like, oh, if you took a moment to step back and have a moment of gratitude and just get yourself even keeled, there's a lot of opportunities that are right in front of you that you might not see. Going back to what Chaz said, and which was always my North Star, if I feel lost, I'm going into the comment sections. I want to see what's happening with our customers. I want to spend time with the customers to know where we're going. And I think spending time with mentors and making sure that there are those who can ask at least good questions. They don't need to give you the answer, but they need to just ask you something that makes you go, That will allow you to unlock a lot of things. And lastly, everyone has said it, team. Look at what is your true skill set and where could someone come in and supplement, and that will take some pressure off of you to know that, okay, I might not be the right fit for this, but I can hire somebody who has that skill set and help make magic happen.
Great advice. Ben, you're last.
So 3, obsess over your customer, spend less than your revenue, so be profitable, and 3, be cash flow positive, because then you'll maintain control of your business, which I think is really cool. I think in the past 20 years in this country, so many businesses have run and still run extraordinarily negative EBITDAs, and this is a non-research backed statement, but I think that can be like incredibly disruptive to an economy from like a macroeconomic perspective, and just makes things sort of feel completely out of whack, you know, the way real estate is in New York right now. So I sort of feel like we have a responsibility as business owners to run profitable businesses. The cash flow positive thing is more for yourself.
It's a good piece of advice for any business. Don't lose money. Everybody, please give a round of applause to our fantastic panel. Thanks, guys. You're reaching. I don't know what you're doing. Okay, no, what's happening?
Our